Okay, if you're indecisive, like actually indecisive, not just once in a while, this video is for you. If you sit there and overthink small decisions, if you go back and forth in your head all the time, if you ask 5 people what you should do, and if you make a decision, then immediately question it, yeah, this video is for you. Because I used to think indecisiveness meant that I was just bad at making big decisions, like something was wrong with me, like I just wasn't confident, or I just didn't know myself properly. But that's not really what's going on. Indecision isn't just about the decision. It's about fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of regret, fear of missing out, fear of choosing one thing and losing the other. That's what it actually is. So let's start simple. Why is it so hard to choose? Because choosing means opening one door, but closing another door. And that's scary. Every time you consciously choose something, you automatically are not picking something else. And that feels uncomfortable, especially if you're the type of person who wants to try and maximize everything. Like, what if the other option was better? What if I chose wrong? What if I look stupid? What if I'll regret it? And because of that, you stall. You think, you ask for advice, you make pros and cons lists, and you talk yourself in circles. But here's the thing that nobody actually tells you. There was never the perfect choice. You're not choosing between good and bad. You're choosing between 2 imperfect options, and your brain hates that. Your brain wants certainty. It wants a guaranteed outcome. It wants a preview of how you'll feel in 6 months. But life doesn't give previews. You just pick and then you live with it. And that's very uncomfortable. And I think a lot of indecisive people are actually just really thoughtful. Like, you care, you think deeply, you don't want to hurt people, don't want to mess up, you don't want to waste time. And that's not a weakness, that is awareness. But awareness can turn into paralysis when you overvalue the outcome. Like, you convince yourself that this one decision is going to define everything. However, it's probably not. Most decisions are reversible, most decisions are lessons, and most decisions are not meant to be permanent, but we treat them like they are. And another thing, most indecisive people usually don't trust themselves. That's the root of it. You don't trust that even if you chose wrong, you'll handle it. So you try to avoid choosing at all, but avoiding a decision is still a decision. Staying is a decision, waiting is a decision, doing nothing is a decision. You're always choosing something. You just don't want to admit that you're choosing. And here's something that helped me a lot. You can't think your way into confidence. You build confidence by deciding, even on small things, where to eat, what workout to do, when to leave, what to say. You just decide, and you stop negotiating with yourself. Because the more you overthink, the less confident you feel, and it becomes a habit. Your brain gets used to questioning everything, and then even simple stuff feels extremely overwhelming and heavy. Say you're deciding whether to stay in something or leave. Could be a relationship, a friendship, major, job. You sit there and think, what if it gets better? What if I'm just in a weird mood? What if I regret leaving? But you never actually ask, what if staying is what I regret? And here's the key difference. You only focus on the regret of action, not the regret of inaction. And that skews everything. Clarity usually comes from movement, not thinking. You don't get clarity sitting still. You get clarity by doing, by trying, by choosing, by experiencing. And indecision keeps you in your head. Decision moves you into real life. And real life gives you feedback. You choose something, you see how it feels, and then you adjust. That's just how it works. But when you never choose, you never get feedback. So you stay confused. And another thing I've learned, sometimes you're indecisive because both options are fine, and that's okay. But you're just waiting for one to feel perfect, and it won't. Sometimes you just pick one. You commit and you make it work. There isn't some magical alignment moment. Sometimes you create your own alignment. You create peace after you choose, not before. Now, let's talk about regret for a second. You're going to regret something no matter what. That's part of being human, and you can't optimize your life perfectly. There will always be a version of you wondering, what if? So stop trying to eliminate regret completely. Instead, ask yourself, which option feels more aligned with who I want to become? Not who I'm scared of being, not what other people expect, and not what looks best. Who do I want to become? Pick the one that pushes you forward, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable, because comfort usually keeps you stuck. And another practical thing, give yourself a time limit. If you're stuck on a decision, say to yourself, I'm deciding by tonight, or I'm deciding by Sunday. No more endless debating. A deadline forces a decision, and a deadline forces clarity. Also, limit outside options. The more people you ask, the more perspectives you add, the more confused you get. Everyone gives advice based on their fears, their values, their experiences, not yours. And at the end of the day, you're the one living it. And here's something really freeing. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to pivot. You're allowed to admit something isn't working. And you're allowed to try something and adjust. Indecision, it feels permanent, but decisions don't have to be. You're not signing a lifetime contract with most choices. You're just choosing the next step. And that's it. Just the next step. You don't need to map out 5 years. Just pick the next step. And I think a lot of indecisiveness comes from wanting your life to be clean, clear, organized, linear. But the truth is, life is none of those things. It's messy. You try things, you pivot, you learn, and you grow. And if you wait for absolute certainty before acting, you're gonna be waiting forever. Being decisive doesn't mean being reckless. It just means being willing to move and adapt. There's a difference. You can think about something, reflect, process, but at some point, thinking turns into hiding. And you have to ask yourself about when that shift actually happens. So if you feel stuck right now, try this. Just flip a coin. Not to let the coin decide, but to just see your reaction. When it lands, you'll immediately feel some relief or disappointment. And that reaction tells you something. Your body knows before your brain admits it. And if after all this, you still feel stuck, just pick the option that scares you slightly more. Not in a dangerous way, but in a growth way. The one that feels like it might stretch you a little bit, because that's usually the one that builds you. At the end of the day, being indecisive doesn't mean you're weak. It usually just means that you care. But caring without action leads to frustration. So stop trying to eliminate uncertainty. You can't. Stop trying to guarantee outcomes. You can't. Just decide, learn, and adjust. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're not incapable. You just need to trust that you can handle whatever comes after the choice that you make. Because that's what confidence actually is. Not knowing you're right, but knowing that whatever the outcome is, you're gonna figure it out. And that is enough. I'll see you guys in the next one.